Polls open for special voting in just over an hour's time. But in KZN, more than 17,000 police officers have been deployed to that province ahead of elections. Also, extra police being deployed to what's been called 49 high-risk voting stations here in the Western Cape. Those stations will receive additional deployment for elections this week. This according to the Western Cape Police Services. Mary De Haas has been a researcher in politically related violence throughout South Africa's pre and current democracy. Mary, really appreciate your time. All systems go, says the president last night. What we saw last week on the N3 highway in KZN, truck drivers blocking major roads. They believed to be largely connected to an impending disgruntlement between truck operators between Gauteng and Durban. But your thoughts in the way security services have been handling security threats over the last few weeks of campaigning. Does it bore you with any confidence or any concern before we go to the polls this Wednesday? Mary, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Look, there were blocks. They last, I think, just a few days ago when there was a blockage on roads around Durban. The police cleared it quickly. They seem to be pretty proactive about it this time. I mean, these truck congestion with the trucks. I mean, the truck drivers were threatening a shutdown, and then I thought it had been postponed, but this happens periodically regardless of elections. And yeah, there are a lot of police flooded into the deployed in the province. I mean, I'm not sure whether, the only question I have is whether they're shuffling police around, because in a number of areas, the police are accused of being politically partisan. You know, if you get to the hostels in Durban, for example, you might find that the local police are siding with one or other political parties, the same as in places like Nongoma, Ulundi. So ideally, if there's a big, and there is, I mean, you know, it's been officially announced, a big police deployment, it would be quite nice if people from an urban station were deployed in some of the riskier rural areas, just to make sure that, there's no partisanship, because the problem we have in South Africa generally, and very noticeably in this province, is the politicization of police. In July 21, a lot of police didn't act because they were sympathetic to Zuma. So we don't know if that situation is still prevailing.
Is KZN the concern? And I recall the events of July 2021 in parts of KZN and in Gauteng with that attempted insurrection, where we've seen very, very little in terms of activity when it comes to bringing to book the organizers, the masterminds of that July 2021 event. Of the concerns from you that there could be some form of nefarious intervention as we go to the polls, particularly with KZN as a concern?
Look, it's completely unknown. Look, we don't know who was behind July 21. I mean, what is really disgusting is the people who are known. These were the agitators. I mean, it's all, there was a whole compilation of people caught on social media threatening, and the people who were in the Zuma compound before he was arrested, they should have been arrested for sedition. They were firing, they were threatening to kill the police if they went, and that's sedition. Now, nothing has been done about that, and that's where you start identifying who is organizing, deploying these people, and we don't know, quite frankly. If you've read the report in the committee chaired by Sandy Africa, it talks about, very high sophistication in the organization of it, unknown people. We don't know who they are. We don't know why they did it. All we know is that the government didn't respond as it should have. I mean, at the time, it was obvious from this province that it would spread to Gauteng. But nothing was done to stop it spreading to Gauteng. And nothing was done to unblock the roads. That should have been done immediately. You'd have saved millions or billions in damage if you brought the army in then. And the Minister of Police, in a democracy, the Minister would have been fired immediately. But he wasn't, because I think it was a whole ANC decision not to act immediately. So, since we don't know, if you have forces that are smart enough to deploy, to organize something like this, you don't know, and you don't know why exactly it caused quite so much trouble. You don't know what they're capable of. But look, all we can do is, there's just too many unknown variables in this. I noticed that the two things that have been quite interesting in the last few days. And firstly, the provincial, the department, the provincial police have put out a warning about possible problems after the Concord judgment. It's a pretty vague thing about, there could be problems in May or June, but it does give details for reporting any suspicious activities. And the other thing was that a whole lot of ballot boxes were found in area in Durban, in a Warden area. It was reported by they were found with ANC. And apparently the IEC accused of not a couple of parties noticed what was happening, reported it to the police. The video of it. Police went in, and the IEC is accused of not taking it seriously enough. But it's very serious if there's ballot boxes floating around days before the voting.
There were utterances by members of the Mkhonto weSizwe party saying that if Jacob Zuma was not allowed to contest, and that's now been confirmed by the Constitutional Court, that he is ineligible to be a candidate for their party, that they will not allow this election to go ahead. Any seriousness to take to that threat, or at the time, this was several weeks ago, simply just political posturing, or should we take all threats as being serious?
Look, it may just be political posturing, but we do have to allow for the fact that, as I said, given that they've got away with it before, there could be disruptions. We don't know what form the disruptions will take. My main concern is in some of the well-known contested areas, especially in rural areas where you may get threatened intimidation, including from traditional leaders, because Mkhonto MK party has been very overtly trying to recruit them and saying they'll be given more powers. Will be a little Bantustan if MK gets in. Recently, last week, I think headmen or Zinduna are threatening disruptions because they haven't been paid what they think they're owed, and which is itself, whether they're owed that, because a lot of them don't deserve it anyway. But there are all these threats coming up, and we can just hope. The other problem, of course, is the whole politicization of policing generally. And the malfunctioning of crime intelligence, which has continued. There was a report, as I said, put out by the police a few days ago, and it mentions areas all over the province. Now, what I'm hearing from pretty inside sources is there isn't even money for informers now. And some of us are feeling vindicated. We've been warning about this, and the Inspector General of Intelligence report to Parliament last week confirmed that even the so-called security clearances of top crime intelligence fraudulent. Now, if you've got people like that running crime intelligence, how is it functioning properly?
Mary De Haas, really appreciate your time researching political violence. Thanks so much for joining us.